and let us all do we can to build a better future.
So now we're going to move on to a story that's been breaking, and it's unfortunate as well. Before we play the video, there was a Pittsburgh bridge collapse, and Biden recently visited it in the state of Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, there were people who got hurt, and this is another example of America's crumbling infrastructure. This isn't just one bridge. There are numerous bridges, dams, and other things very integral to our infrastructure that are falling apart in this country. And remember, Build Back Better started at $7 trillion, now $1.75 trillion. At the bare minimum, we need $10 trillion to invest into our infrastructure. I don't know what $1.75 trillion is going to do, or whatever the new amount is going to look like, but it's not enough. Let's play this video.
And you can see, you see it coming out on the other side of the concrete there, this side, up by the crane. And were you worried that there had been an explosion, or that there had been
We weren't sure whether the gas had caused this or whether the leak was, a result of the bridge collapse. So we just weren't sure about that.
How long did it take to get the company to shut off the gas?
Probably about a half hour.
Half hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So that was just continuing outside of the...
So there's obviously there's another line right here as well. Yeah, so that was rushing out. So...
And it's probably too early for joggers to be done.
There was a few joggers, actually. There was a few. One of them actually helped us get some people out of the cars there. So. Yeah.
It's a miracle, Mr. President. It's a miracle.
It really is.
It's gonna happen.
It really is. It's astounding. You all realize, I've been coming to Pittsburgh a long time, and as a former Pennsylvanian, but I didn't realize there are literally more bridges in Pittsburgh than any other city in the world. You know? I mean, I knew there were a lot of bridges. I had no idea that, and we're gonna fix them all. Not a joke. Gigantic change, and there's 43,000 nationwide.
All right. So, because there's a lot more to the story about our crumbling infrastructure. First and foremost, again, there's a lot of evidence out there showing that Biden clearly has some cognitive issues, because right behind him, he's commenting how he didn't know there were so many bridges in the state of Pennsylvania. To our Pennsylvania audience members, great, you got a lot of bridges there, but our infrastructure is falling apart. And with a collapsed bridge right behind him, he's like, "Hey, Jack, I didn't know there were so many collapsed bridges. I didn't know there were so many bridges here, and we're gonna fix them all." How are you gonna do that when Manchin and Cinema are basically gutting your Build Back Better, you crazy old clown? So, again, I always say, and I'm going to keep on saying this, our lawmakers, be they the President of the United States down to these House representatives, they don't like you. They don't think about you. And there he is visiting it, looking all awestruck and dumb. Look, there were 10 people injured and 4 people who had to go to the hospital because of this collapse. But there are other bridges that have structural issues at hand. And I'm going to be bringing up 2 incidences, but first let me just talk about what's happened in this article right here. So 10 people were injured. 4 of them were taken to hospitals after a bridge collapsed just before rush hour on Pittsburgh's East End Friday morning. 3 of those injured were the Friend Hollow Bridge. 3 of those injured were when the Friend Hollow Bridge collapsed near Frick Park before 7 a.m. were rushed to the UPMC Presbyterian Hospital. The 4th victim was taken to UPMC Shadeside Hospital, but was released after receiving treatment. At least one of the victims was a first responder. All were said to be in fair condition. Search dogs were brought in, as were about a dozen NTSB officials, as a chaotic scene began to unfold in the area of Forbes and Braddock Avenues near Point Breeze just before daylight. So this bridge collapsed. It fell apart. And it's a sign of America's crumbling infrastructure. It's a sign of just how bad things are getting. Look, there's still an ongoing investigation about what led to its collapse. But I want to rewind back the clocks just a little bit. I want to pull up this article from RT America. And I actually covered this here at Hardlands Media, but I wanted just to bring this up. Bridge over Mississippi River closed for repairs after inspectors discover a major crack. River transport grinds to a halt. So Tennessee officials have closed a bridge, and this is from last year, of May of 2021. Tennessee officials have closed a bridge spanning the Mississippi River after inspectors found a crack in its structure. The closure has delayed vital river traffic and serves as a reminder of the U.S. decaying infrastructure. Built in the 1960s and reinforced in the last 2 decades, the Hernando de Soto Bridge carries Interstate 40 across the Mississippi River between West Memphis, Arkansas, and Memphis, Tennessee. As many as 50,000 vehicles, including more than 9,000 trucks, use the bridge every day, officials said. However, the Tennessee Department of Transportation shut the bridge down on Tuesday after a routine inspection found a crack in its steel structure. So if we scroll down, we actually could see the picture of the crack. Actually, if we can get there. That's what it looks like. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that one. Right there. That's one of the pictures of the crack that we're seeing in the key part. And there's where it's at. There it is right there. And because of this shutdown, river transportation, boat barges had to be halted. That impacts supply chains, that impacts businesses. A lot of road traffic was halted, and this is all across the country. There are other bridges that have the same kind of problems. And again, at the bare minimum, we need about $10 trillion to invest into our infrastructure. Continuing on with the article, while road traffic was directed to cross the mighty Mississippi via the nearby Memphis, Arkansas bridge, shipping on the river has been halted entirely until further notice, per the statement from the TDOT on Tuesday afternoon. The chief engineer, Paul Dreggs, told reporters on Wednesday that it could be months rather than weeks before the bridge is repaired. The inspection that revealed the crack, performed every 2 years, is ongoing. So every 2 years, they're investigating it. There are some bridges that have been investigated or looked at in more than just 2 years all across this country. So, and by the way, with that article too, I want to bring this up as well. One crack in the Memphis could have national implications. Tennessee is bordered by 8 states, and more goods are moved by truck through Tennessee than through any other U.S. state. Furthermore, 500 million tons of shipped goods, including petroleum, grain, iron, and steel, are moved along the Mississippi River each year. Reports in local media on Wednesday stated that several barges are already backed up on the river. Now, this happened in 2021 of May, last year. I want to bring up this video from PBS, but it talks about our infrastructure, and this was last year. Now, thankfully, with that bridge collapse, no one died. No one was hurt. Well, people were hurt, but no one passed away. But our infrastructure is falling apart, and our politicians, both Democrat and Republican, have turned a blind eye to it. And remember, under a Democratic administration, they're choosing to cut out all the benefits to invest into our infrastructure. $7 trillion down to $1.75 trillion. Manchin and Sinema are okay with cutting it. Biden's okay with it being cut apart. And now in Build Back Better, the only thing that's in there is really benefiting private corporations. If we're going to be serious about this, we have to invest into America again. But our lawmakers don't care because they don't think about us. Let's play this video.
As we reported earlier, President Biden is floating proposals to pay for his $2 trillion infrastructure package. Our William Brangham brings us this look at why America's infrastructure is in such need of repair.
The president's plan includes funding for many infrastructure priorities, more than $600 billion in transportation infrastructure, more than $100 billion for drinking water projects, and more than $100 billion to expand broadband. Just last month, the American Society of Civil Engineers released its 2021 report card, and it gave America's infrastructure a C-. I'm joined now by Emily Feenstra. She is the ASCE's Managing Director of Government Relations and Infrastructure Initiatives. Emily, great to have you on the NewsHour. I have to imagine on one level, for civil engineers like you, this has got to be an incredibly exciting time when the president proposes a nearly $2 trillion infrastructure bill. But But more seriously, this is meant to address some very serious deficiencies in our country. Could you just give us a snapshot of what your report card tells us?
This is an exciting time. I think it's been a long time coming where a lot of these issues, the roads that we travel on.
What I find interesting is, this was last year, and I just kind of want it's the benefit of just hearing this and now seeing how everything's being played out. That $2 trillion, again, so much lower now, and it's going to continue to be lower. But remember, it started at $7 trillion. Exciting times, yes, but again, Build Back Better is now going to benefit private corporations. Let's play the rest of this.
And our transit networks and our water systems have flown under the radar, and it's great to see the national attention on this issue. At the same time, I'm a parent. I would not be happy if my kid brought home a C-. So we have a lot of work to do, and we have 11 categories still in that D range.
C-
These are a lot of our
bad.
legacy systems.
So what types of things do you think jump to the top of the priority list of, look, if I had to choose, this is the stuff I think we've got to get done?
One thing that we like is really that comprehensive approach. We look at 17 categories of the report card, and it's really a connected system. So in a way, our ports are only as good as the roads and the rail that connect to them. At the same time, if you look at those categories in the Ds, there's a few that stand out. Our lowest grade in the report card were our transit systems. Our communities across the country are just facing a huge maintenance backlog when it comes to transit, and the pandemic certainly didn't help that. Agencies have been facing huge revenue declines, and so they were kind of kicked while they were already down. Wastewater utilities, another area where we're in the Ds, there's a lot of work we could be doing. Inland waterways is another one, definitely under the radar for most Americans, but that's how farmers get their goods to market. And when those barges have to stop on the Mississippi River, it costs goods to increase more, hours of delay, and that's something we really need to prioritize.
I know there's been semantic quibbling going on where the administration says infrastructure can include broadband and water systems and electric charging stations for EV cars. And Republicans say, no, that's not what we traditionally think of as infrastructure. I know the American society tries to be nonpartisan and apolitical in all of this, but do you guys come down on this issue of what is infrastructure and what is not?
I certainly think one roadmap is, again, our infrastructure report card. People are surprised to know that we look at those 17 categories, and one that I would point out that's been in our report card since 1998, we've been doing this since 1998, once every 4 years, is school facilities. So we've looked at schools. They have not gotten a lot of attention, but when you're thinking about where our kids are spending 8 or more hours a day, and you look at the number of kids that are in portable classrooms or HVAC systems aren't updated, there's a lot of common ground. There are new things in the proposal that might go beyond those 17 categories, but again, we appreciate that it includes core programs like surface transportation, but also water, the energy grid, inland waterways, and so many of these things that go out of sight, out of mind.
I hear everything that you're saying about the importance of these projects, but we know that many people look at this and think it's too much money to spend. A $2 trillion infrastructure bill is $2
trillion, right? That's too much money. Remember, it started at $7 trillion, but thanks to the crafty negotiating skills of Representative Pramila Jayapal, who is the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, negotiated all the way down to 1.75. So again, this video is from last year where it was kind of at $2 trillion, staying there. Now it's much lower. We spend trillions of dollars on the military-industrial complex, on the prison-industrial complex. We spend trillions of dollars on these corporations and giving them tax breaks, bailing them out. But I guess, what, $2 trillion to invest into our infrastructure? That's just too much. Too much to do. But we have money for a joint strike fighter that can't even work at night. We have money for regime change wars. We have money to send military aid across the globe. We're in different combat theaters across the planet. But yet $2 trillion, at least according to some people, be it lawmakers, both Democrat and Republican, $2 trillion, that's a bridge too far. We just can't do it. It'll ruin our economy. It'll cripple us. But yet, what are we seeing? And again, that bridge collapse in Pittsburgh, that's only the beginning. Hell, it's not even the beginning. It's an ongoing sad saga of our crumbling infrastructure. We have an antiquated system here in the United States. A lot of our infrastructure was built in the 1960s, and it's falling apart. It's no longer up to code anymore. If we're going to really be a superpower, a global superpower, or either that contribute in making sure our citizens are taken care of, we got to start investing into our country again. But these Democratic and Republican lawmakers would rather spend our treasury on regime change wars, on surveilling us, for the police state, and so much more. Making sure that big pharma, the healthcare industry, the military-industrial complex, the prison-industrial complex are all taken care of. Making sure that big oil will be taken care of. It's pretty pathetic that we are in this time right now. But again, as these bridges collapse, more innocent people will get hurt. Let's play the rest of the video.
Too high a price. What is your response to that?
I can absolutely understand how sometimes it seems like sticker shock, but what people don't realize is that we're already paying. It's almost like a hidden tax from this gradually declining, deteriorating infrastructure that doesn't work the way that it should. And we've actually quantified that cost. In addition to the poor grade, we know that it costs American households on average $3,300 a year in personal disposable income. That's equivalent of 60.
Money.
Yes. It's a takeout dinner for a family of 4 each week. And that's significant. And it's things we know intuitively, you know, when the pothole messes with your alignment that you've driven over 5 or 6 times on the way to work, when a water main break shuts down a business, when a blackout, as we saw in Texas, you know, wreaks havoc. These things cost money, they add up, they make our economy less productive. And I think what, you know, there actually is strong voter support for these investments. They pass in overwhelming margins at the ballot box, at the local and state level, and what we need is that strong federal partner that we've been missing.
All right, Emily Feenstra of the American Society of Civil Engineers, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks so much.
So there we go. A year later, what are we seeing? The Build Back Better, the great plan to invest into America, being lowered. The money amount being lowered to where Build Back Better, as we covered, it's only going to benefit private corporations. So way to go, progressives. You compromise on a compromise on a compromise, and it's not going to do its original thing. But see, that's what I'm saying about these Democratic lawmakers. They're okay with losing because this is what they're supposed to do. And that article from RT America and that video from PBS were from last year. It's still getting worse. Our infrastructure is still crumbling apart. We're just basically super gluing everything together at a terrible rate. And so the thing is, as Americans go to work, take their family to schools, or travel across the country, our lives are at risk as we use these bridges and all these other key elements of our infrastructure. If they are truly falling apart or held together with shoestring and that's it, well, innocent people are going to get hurt. We have to be serious about investing into America. Because if we don't, we're going to see more bridges collapse. We're going to see other key elements of our infrastructure fall apart, and it will impact our economy. But just a quick reminder, for a very long time throughout the last decades, our lawmakers were okay with leaving things the way they are, because our lawmakers want to make sure that Wall Street's taken care of, that the banks are taken care of, that corporations are taken care of, that the lobby groups are taken care of. They don't care about us because they don't think about us. I hope for this midterm election cycle we see a different kind of turnout, supporting for ballot initiatives and support for building infrastructure for third parties. Because a two-party system is okay with our bridges falling apart. If they actually gave a damn, they would have done something years ago, but they didn't. They had better things to do, like get rich, have gold-plated healthcare, have wonderful benefits, and screw us over in the long run. We deserve better.